Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another edition of the Fourth Tier Fever preview show. I'm Jack Mitchell, and I'm going to be your host for this podcast. Delighted to be joined by a Grimsby Town fan and normal host of the podcast, Jordan Richards, as well as fellow Gills fan, Harry. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Of course, it's your first time hosting, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah, very well, especially after last night at Sheffield Wednesday. It was a good night. Of course, winning 1-0, getting through to the fourth round of the Carabao. We'll probably play Wrexham, or I don't know who's left in it. Wickham, I think, is still in it. If they win their game or something like that. But no, it's going all right. Doing all right.
Yeah, doing well, mate. Looking forward to this week's fixtures. Looking forward to ours. Can we go 21? Can we do it?
We shall see, mate. We shall see. It would be the record. We cross our fingers in hope. Before we begin, before we get stuck in, just want to say a huge thank you to Skybet for sponsoring this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps channel out. And if you're listening. Streaming on via our streaming platform, I should say. Please download the podcast from wherever you get your podcasts from. Right, gents. First fixture, first game up. Cambridge at home to Fleetwood. Early kickoff. Two sides struggling for consistency at the moment. Both having secured decent 1-1 draws at the weekend against Grimsby Town and Walsall, respectively. Jordan, I'll come your way first if I can on this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's. I think on the face of it, I just see this as a very tight game, especially from what I saw of Cambridge last week. I'll touch on them a little bit more later, so I won't go into massive detail with them. Yeah, I think you can see how well they're set it up. They were very compact. But again, I think, very nearly got that win last week. If it wasn't for a little bit of recklessness right at the end, if they just kept their cool a little bit, they very much could have walked away from Grimsby with all 3 points. I think Fleetwood are pretty similar, albeit I think they've been slightly better, just about. Not by much. Obviously, they drew 1-1 with Walsall last week after going 1-0 up in the game. And I mean, to be fair, they broke through the Walsall defence, so that's certainly something. But again, they've had. I think both clubs have sort of had their moments already this season. They've had some pretty good results, and there's some in which they haven't. They've been pretty poor in some, like Fleetwood losing to Crewe 4-1. You got Cambridge, they've lost to Swindon early doors. The Oldham one weren't great the other week. It does look. I can just see it being a very tight game, and I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in it at all. I just sort of get that vibe with it. A Neil Harris side coming up against a Pete Wild side, I just don't think there'll be a great deal in it. But certainly for maybe the tactical battle, and maybe I think either side might have to rely on a little bit of quality. I think Fleetwood offers it a little bit more at present. Might separate it, but I don't think it'd be much. If so.
No, I'm in agreement with you there, really. I think their home form's good, isn't it? They've lost once in 4 sort of home matches, and they're positioned at the moment in 13th. You're right. Neil Harris, he's got his style, doesn't he? And it's not probably going to be one for a neutral to watch this one. I think it's going to be close. I think Fleetwood, they've had a bit of a mixed start to their campaign at the moment. Victories over Barnet, Bristol, Barrow. It shows that they've got ability to get these results and sort of secure them. But are they capable of delivering on their travels? That's the question, really. And going up against Cambridge, we saw last week in that game against Grimsby, they have a style, don't they? And they really sort of stick to that. I don't think there's going to be much in it, as you say. I'm thinking 1-1 personally. I'm thinking a draw.
Yeah, I've got to say, very, very, very difficult to disagree with you there. I had it really, really finely balanced. I think score draw, probably the safe bet. And it's just whether, I suppose, either side are able to produce a little bit of quality to take all 3.
I didn't even give my prediction, to be fair.
I'll go for it, Jordan. Yeah,
I sort of said that. Yeah, no, it's my bad. Let's go 0-0. I know
like
I'm.
it.
Yeah, I can't see much at all.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. Next game up, Harrogate Town at home to Shrewsbury Town. Two sides that are lingering down at the wrong end of the table at the moment, with Harrogate sat in 17th place and Shrewsbury second bottom in 23rd. Only 3 points separate the two, which to me is suggesting a tight match. Harry, I'll come to you first on this one, please, mate.
Well, there's a bit of a strong sense that this could be a bit of a pivotal game for both of the sides here. I mean, it's only round 9 of the season, but for Shrewsbury, this already feels like a must-win fixture. A poor start has sort of left them languishing in 23rd place. On paper, they've got some good players, but they're struggling for both confidence and goals. I said in the review show at the weekend, I just feel I've seen this story before. I've seen it with Gillingham. You go down, you really struggle for that confidence, and then the goals aren't coming, and suddenly you're at the foot of the table, looking at the National League. But this is a big game. This is a big game. So their trip takes them to Harrogate, who themselves are just on an absolute torrid run of form. 4 consecutive defeats have yielded just 2 goals from them and conceding 9 in the process. They're not good numbers. They paint a bit of a picture of a side that could find themselves sliding towards trouble if they're not careful. So for Harrogate, this is a game, again, must win. Try to get a bit of form back against a Shrewsbury team that are there for the taking, you would have to say. But Shrewsbury, their win against Barnet, that 3-1, it's a bit of a glimmer of hope and evidence that they can do something, and Appleton's men can be competitive and at least carry a bit of a threat. I don't think it's going to be straightforward. I think it's going to be down to maybe a moment, a kick around in the box or something like that. But I am going to go with Shrewsbury for this one. I'm going to go 1-0 to Shrewsbury just to get something, just because it's such a big game for them.
Yeah, I think. Look, I was banging the drum. If you listen to the review podcast from the other week when we had a look at Shrewsbury's game against Salford, I was, or pretty much even Harrogate's game, because I think we touched on that. Or did we? I can't remember if we did. But anyway, I was still banging the drum about how this is an important game. I feel for both. I think more so for Shrewsbury, obviously with their start to the season. I think even more so after the defeat to Salford. Yes, they beat Barnet the game before that, but I needed to see them follow it up against Salford. All right, look, granted, I was banging the drum about Salford as well. I think they're one of the strongest teams in the league, and they'll do some beating. So really, I didn't think Shrewsbury would have got much from the game anyway. I felt like they probably should have got something from it. I think in terms of the balance of play, but Salford's quality was done in the end. But you could probably argue as well, we did mention it, this is a big game for Harrogate as well. 4 consecutive league defeats for them now after starting the season. Relatively strong, a couple of good wins in there against Barrow and Bristol Rovers on the opening day. They should have really taken more out of Grimsby in the end, being 3-1 up in the 85th minute or beyond that. They took a point off games as well. But yeah, 4 straight defeats has really put a dent in them. You could probably argue Chesterfield and Bromley, 2 tough teams in there. Even Swindon last week. I mean, the Crawley one's a poor result. I think it's just more of a case of who can hold the bottle more than anything in this one. And maybe a case in which, like I said, I feel like it's bigger for Shrewsbury because of where they are. 1 win. But for Harrogate, I think you've got to feel the same, because the longer that this sort of losing run continues, the more that they could be dropping down. And we're probably looking at them thinking, right, okay, these are the team now that we're worried about. I'm less so with them at the minute, but for Shrewsbury, I definitely am. If I was to give a score prediction, I honestly fancy a home win. I think I just fancy Harrogate more than I fancy Shrewsbury at this current time. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Harrogate, but I don't think, even saying that, I just don't think it's a game that either, at this stage of the season, I know it's still fairly early on, that either could afford to lose, really.
Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting point. I think I'm also leaning towards a home win. To be honest with you, I just think with Harrogate, all right, I know they're on a poor run of form, but the last few years that they've got a lot of credit in the bank. They can go through poor spells, but they can also then turn it around and improve, and that they're very, very good at it. I think Shrewsbury, I mentioned it midweek last week. It's just don't throw it away once you've got that win. They had a great win at Barnet. Don't throw it away and lose the next game. They did. Appreciate Salford are a good side. Um, and yeah, it just worries me with morale and whether or not that might flatten them out a little bit. So I'm going to go with a Harrogate, very very slender 1-0 win, but purely based on the credit they've got in the bank and the fact that they are a side that can turn it around. Okay, moving swiftly on. Next match we've got is Barnet versus a certain Grimsby town. Barnet grabbed obviously their dramatic 2-1 away win, and some would probably say unexpected 2-1 away win at Crewe last weekend, which pushed them up to 15th in the table. Grimsby moved on from that frustrating 1-1 draw at home with Cambridge to win, as Jordan mentioned earlier on, to win 1-0 away at Hillsborough last night at the Carabao Cup. As resident Mariner, Jordan, straight to you, please, mate.
Yeah, I think on the face of it, Barnet's a game I always look forward to as a Grimsby fan, and it's great to see them back in the league, and it's great that we've got this fixture back, and going down to the Hive again is something that our fan base like doing. So we're really looking forward to that. I think with Barnet, I'm looking at this more from obviously a Grimsby perspective. Obviously, I think with Barnet, they're a completely different side to Cambridge. They're a side in which they've tried to play the right way. They've had a lot of possession in their games, normally a lot of shots. They've normally let themselves down, I think, at times with moments of madness in periods. But they're a very good side, don't get me wrong. I think they're really starting to really pick up now. Their win at Crewe last week was a very good result. I mean, Kieran Slicker, all the plaudits in the world went his way after the weekend. But I think with us, yes, obviously, the Cambridge performance last week was disappointing, but the fact we got something out of that game was pleasing. Maybe looking at that back a little bit more, maybe the point was probably what we deserved, really, especially second half. But let's not shy away. It was a poor performance. It wasn't like us at all. Granted, I think Cambridge did their homework on us and sort of knew how we play. I expect this to be completely different. With Barnet, I think they know they've got a clear style. Dean Brennan likes his teams to sort of play football, or at least try to. And I've said it for past couple of episodes, really. If teams try to play football against us, I'm confident we'll out-football them as a side. I think the only question mark I've probably got going into this game is what's yesterday at Sheffield Wednesday done. You can maybe understand it against Man United. For the fact we started slow for the first half hour, and that's what really cost us against Bristol Rovers. But I mean, I think we take yesterday at Hillsborough against a very youthful Sheffield Wednesday. We didn't really get out of second gear, really, or first gear, and we won the game pretty comfortably in the end. If you look at it, I mean, we go from the corner, but no, I'm expecting a difficult game. Going there is never easy. I think there's a game which is very capable of there being goals in it. I really get that feeling. But ultimately, I think from a league perspective, yes, yesterday was good, fourth round, but we need to get back to it in the league. And look, if we manage to pick up a win at the Hive at the weekend, it'll be a great result either way. But like I said, it's a game I'm looking forward to. It's a side that it's a game in which both sides will want to play football. Both Dean Brennan and David Artell have their ideas. I'd like to think we'll just be enough for them. I think the big thing is just putting in the performances maybe we didn't quite see last week. I think there was quite a few players that had off days. I can see this from a couple of different ways. I can see them picking a result. I can see us picking up a result. I think to stick with it though, I fancy us for an away win. I fancy us to go there and win 2-1. Really, I think we'll concede, but I think we'll be right back on it. We've got some players that are really starting to find their feet now. And yes, we've got some couple of players coming back from injury, but I won't be surprised if this game's got even more goals in it. I just get that vibe with this one, but I'm gonna stick with our away win because yeah, I'd like to think we've just got enough to beat them.
Yeah, there's not much more I can add to that, really. Were Barnet fortunate to win their game against Crewe after the 2 penalty saves? With those in the game, probably. Did they deserve it? Yeah, absolutely. They did deserve it. I think Dean Brennan has his side well drilled, and they're highly motivated. It's worked for them. That's been evident so far across their games this season. Grimsby, I mean, you've had an excellent start to the campaign. You've only had that one league defeat, and with your cup exploits at the moment, you've got all the momentum and belief in the world to do something. I mean, last week Cambridge, they showed some vulnerabilities in your team, but you're right. I just don't see Barnet going into this game with that sort of style. I think Neil Harris may have provided a bit of a blueprint on how to frustrate and unsettle you. But Barnet, they don't play that style, and they're very sort of set in, their way. And you're right. I think if they play that way, I think it'll be competitive. And I think Barnet are going to make it difficult. They're going to press. They're going to disrupt. But I think the Mariners' quality will probably just prove more decisive. And yeah, 2-1 Grimsby is what I've got down.
I've also got 2-1, hilariously. I do think Barnet will score first. I have nothing to base that on other than the fact that I think they're gonna go 1-0 up. But I think Grimsby, Artell, the momentum they've got, I think Grimsby will win the game. We shall move on. Next game up, we've got Barrow at home to Crewe, Alexandra. Barrow's stuttering start to the season, best way to put it, I think, continued last weekend with a 2-1 loss away at Bristol Rovers, which has left them languishing down in 21st place and only 1 point above the drop zone. I think they also got hammered last night, 5-0 to a really poor at the moment Blackpool side. Appreciate the League One, but they're not having a good time. Meanwhile, promotion chasing Crewe suffered, as we've just discussed, a 2-1 loss at home to Barnet last weekend. Harry, come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, Barrow were comprehensively outplayed yesterday. In the EFL Trophy, normally I don't put a lot of thought into those results. I don't really read into them too deeply, but I was just looking at the manager's post-match comments, and I think they were quite revealing. He seemed very frustrated with his Barrow side, and things like, confidence doesn't just come. You've got to play into it, and it's these things sort of starting to sort of show their head a little bit. Only finding the net 6 times this season, it's not looking good. And again, in the post-match comments, the manager sort of said, that he needs a strong response from his team this weekend, and they've got a tough Crewe side coming up there. It's never easy to go to Barrow, but I do feel Crewe were unfortunate not to take something from their clash against Barnet. I do feel having 2 penalty saves and conceding late, those games go other ways most times. They get 9 times out of 10, you get something from those games, a point or even a win. And going against Barrow, who are just not putting the ball in the back of the net. So I think with Barrow sort of struggling, form in front of goal, not being too solid in defence, I do think Crewe's just going to have a bit more than them in the attack. And I was thinking a draw, but I am going to go for Crewe 1-0.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one that you bring up, especially with Barrow. Obviously, they've had the start to the season that they've had, the 2 wins in their first 7 or 8 games now. 8. 2 wins in their first 8. But you mentioned about Andy Wing's response after yesterday's Blackpool. Again, not want to read into results like that too much. It's because, quite frankly, it's a competition in which I'm celebrating the quicker Grimsby get out of it, to be honest, from my view. But I've noticed it a few times already with Andy Wing this season. The fact that he's already sort of, blasted the players a little bit quite a few times, saying they were rubbish and all that. And yeah, there's no point sugarcoating it. I mean, losing 5-0 in any game is rubbish. And they've got every right to say that. But I don't know. It's an interesting one with Barrow because, again, as you mentioned, they have clearly struggled this season. 6 goals, as mentioned. I think a few teams have scored a fair few more there. There's teams that have scored less than them, for sure. But yeah, they need to start getting some results on the board, really. I think they were quite unfortunate not to take something at Bristol Rovers last week. It looked like they did enough there to at least take a point from that. I've obviously got more concerns about Barrow than Crewe at the minute. Obviously, last week happened, and they've just caught Barnet on a little bit of, well, they caught Kieran Slicker on a good day, that's for sure. But again, 2 missed penalties. You'd like to think they'd have had enough to at least get something from the game, never mind lose it. So that's obviously frustrating on their end for that result. And of course, that's coming after 2 defeats and a draw in those last 3 games coming into this one. So you get the sense that, again, you sort of feel like it's a big game for both sort of needing to win. I don't think it's as big as Harrogate Shrewsbury, not by any stretch, especially in Crewe's case. They've started off pretty well, but they sort of need to get that result, and it'll be a good trip for them if they do. And I just feel like Crewe will just get back to winning ways. Would that put pressure on Andy Wing a little bit? Maybe. To be fair, I like how he comes across, Andy Wing. He's obviously got a little bit of credit in the bank for how he did with Barrow second half of last season, and he just seems like the sort of bloke that you believe that will turn it around. But there is maybe a couple of question marks that I've got in my head at the moment that maybe suggest otherwise. Are they all his fault? I don't think so. I still have maybe 1 or 2 questions about the recruitment, for example. And I think already that's played its part in their early season form. So it's an interesting one, this. I just think it'll be one of those. I think it'll be a hard-fought game. I can't see there being much in the game. I do fancy Crewe to get an away win. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for the Railwaymen.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got 2-0 Crewe win. To be honest, I generally find it quite difficult to go against Barrow at Holker Street. I just think it's one of those places, and they're always good for a point generally at home. But I'm just going with the obvious. I think they're in a bit of a shocking place as far as confidence is concerned. Again, with the Andy Wing comment. So, fancy Crewe to bounce back. Next game up, Bromley at home to Chesterfield. Interesting game. Bromley suffered their first loss of the season last weekend away at Oldham. Who seem to be picking up a bit of speed now themselves. And Chesterfield managed to secure a late 1-1 draw at home to favourites MK Dons. Jordan, 2 sides currently sitting inside the playoff places. Where do you sit with this?
Ooh, I think it's an interesting game. However you look at it, obviously Bromley's unbeaten run last week come to an end. It was one that was never going to last. And like I said last week, I think doing a preview for last week, I always felt like Oldham had something in them to get something from the game. I wasn't quite sure if they'd win it, but they had done. But I think the focus now for Bromley, they've had an excellent start to the season. Hopefully to put that result last week aside and to maybe start a new unbeaten run. I think that'll certainly be the challenge for Andy Woodman and his men now. It's not going to be an easy game. I mean, Chesterfield, yes, they're in the playoffs at the moment. And yes, on paper, they're a strong side, but you see their recent results, they have stalled a little bit as of late. Yes, they picked up that draw against MK Dons last week, late equaliser in that one, albeit that's an MK Dons side that were heavily depleted, if that's a word. With injuries, they've got a fair few, but again, still one of the strongest teams in the league, if not the strongest. In fact, they are clearly. Even with missing players. I mean, losing to Walsall, that weren't great. Aidan Flint looked like he had a good game in that one. Crawley, I mean, they're 2-0 down in the game. I mean, he caught it back to 2-2, probably should have lost it. I don't know, as a little, I think defensively, I know we have looked at Chesterfield, but I think they're also missing the goal scoring touch a little bit at the minute. I mean, take away that 7-1 Crewe defeat in the Cup. I'm not really that bothered about that, albeit it should be enough to raise alarm bells, that's for sure. If I mentioned the same for Barrow with that 5-0 defeat to Blackpool, we should probably mention the same to Chesterfield. Again, a strong Chesterfield side that will put out that day. But I see this as a really interesting matchup between eventually 2 good sides. I think if you're Chesterfield, I think with how current things are going for at the minute, Hayes Lane, probably not a place that they fancy. I think if you ask a Chesterfield fan, would they take a point? And they'll probably say yes. Again, it's just sort of the calibre and the sort of the growth that Bromley have been on, this past year and also this season that Andy Woodman's done. The fact that they're in this situation, I've been really impressed with them. It's a difficult one to call. And again, I won't be surprised if there's goals in this game. Both Bromley have got firepower. Michael Cheek, Nicky Kabamba start the season well. We know what Chesterfield can offer. 12 goals already this season. I think only three teams have scored more than them. 4 even. It just goes up every time we're reading the table. They're very capable, but again, 10 goals is probably a bit of a concern. So I won't be surprised if there's goals in this. It could be like another 2-2 or something that Gillingham had with Bromley. It's a really interesting one to predict this. I'm going to go for 1-1. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think both teams will score, but I'm struggling to really separate the two, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. A bit of a tricky one to predict, really. It's a bit of a mouth-watering clash between two sides here that have genuine playoff ambitions. I'm not sure if you asked a Bromley fan before the season if they'd say they had playoff ambitions, but now they're in it. They look strong. Andy Woodman knows the realities of lower league football, and it's really evident in the way he shapes up the Bromley side. It's disciplined, it's organised, they play to their strengths. Sitting 7th at the moment, they started brightly, though they've got, and that away defeat to Oldham, is it saying something? I don't know, but Chesterfield, for their part, they've struggled defensively this season. I think we've said about it before on the podcast. On paper they boast one of the strongest squads in the division, but those lapses at the back remain a bit of a concern, and they could really prove costly in this contest. I think Bromley's approach will be direct. It will be purposeful. Plenty of service up to Michael Cheek. I just see Chesterfield struggling with that, like they did when they faced Gillingham. They just struggled with balls over the top, balls through from the wings. And I think that's going to make the difference. So I've gone 2-1 Chesterfield, but it could easily be a 2-2 or more. There's goals in this game, I think.
I've gone for a comfortable Bromley home win. I'll be honest. I've said it a few times. Don't like Chesterfield in these sorts of games. I don't think they're back. I don't think defensively they're going to be ready for it. Bromley are one of those teams that score once, they'll probably score again. I think they'll, especially at Hayes Lane, they'll be vying for blood. So I'm going comfortable Bromley home win. Next game up, we've got Cheltenham Town at home to Oldham. Cheltenham are obviously clearly struggling at the moment, foot the table. But obviously big news today that Gary Johnson's left his post as Director of Football. See if that makes a bit of a difference. Oldham, on the other hand, really starting to string some results together, and they're now only 3 points off the playoffs, which I feel like has crept up on us completely out of nowhere, to be honest. Really good news for them. Harry, do you think that the Gary Johnson news can help Cheltenham try and eke something out of this one, or are you fancying Oldham?
Well, I would imagine it will give them a bit of a boost. How much of that boost it will give against an Oldham team who now look like they're picking up a little bit of momentum, I don't know. I still see that Cheltenham team as a very weak team who they're not clicking at the moment. Results are suggesting that they're going to struggle in this game. In my thoughts, given Cheltenham's current struggles and Oldham, they've been very resilient, very, very resilient. I just see Oldham just being able to get the better of this game. I just don't see Cheltenham do it. I'm really worried for them at the moment. I think they're going to have to now wait till January to see if they can do anything and see if they can bolster this squad. I don't think they've got enough at the moment. So, unfortunately for the Cheltenham fans, I think Oldham 1-0 in this game.
I think with the Gary Johnson news, obviously it'll be music to the ears of Cheltenham fans. We've seen the banners in the last couple of weeks sort of calling for his head. I know he's resigned, and I noticed a club statement that said they were disappointed by that. So it was clearly not something they had in mind, really. It was not intentional. But at the same time, would it really help him? Well, going into this game, I don't think it makes much of a difference. They've still got the manager, they've still got the same players, and ultimately they still had the start to the season which they've had, which has been on the whole really, really poor. Obviously that defeat to Crawley last week really weren't great. I'm struggling to see where they played great in any of their games, really. Very nearly picked up 3 points at Salford, but they got battered, really. Cheltenham, MK Dons got hammered. Bromley, Yeah, that happened. I really worry for Cheltenham at the minute. There's a couple of things I'm unsure of, but I also think they could play that pretty well against Oldham. This could be a little bit of a potential banana skin for them, maybe. Yes, they've come off that win against Bromley. Very good result for them. And like I said to you for the past few weeks, I felt like it was only a matter of time before Oldham were starting to get some results together. You just felt like it was coming. And of course, back-to-back defeats. That's clearly given them a boost. 2-1-0 wins, 2 clean sheets. They've done good there. Obviously, it's a fair trek. Oldham fans will certainly fancy it. I think they'll do it. I think. But we're really getting to the point now in which I think Cheltenham need to start picking up results. Or not. I mean, not so much necessarily. I mean, for the league, yes, because obviously that they are where they are, and they are where they are for a reason. But also for Flynn's future. These are. I mean, you look at the next few games. I mean, you've got Oldham in this one, Barnet, Notts County, Barrow. Oh no, that's Oldham. Never mind. I'm reading the wrong two, so ignore me there. Next few games, they've obviously got Oldham in this one. They come to Grimsby next week. Fleetwood, Gillingham. I mean, they've got some tough games coming up. So really, I'm not rushing Oldham by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is the game where they've really got to try and go for it. Not going to be an easy game, granted. I just think Oldham will probably do enough. It'll probably be a 1-0, if anything like that. And vice versa, if Cheltenham were to get something to win the game or anything like that, it'd only be a 1-0. That's just my instinct on it. But yeah, again, I think it's starting to feel like big games for Cheltenham already at the minute. I think less so for Oldham, which might suit them more. I don't know.
Yeah, echo all of those sentiments, to be honest with you. I think the Gary Johnson news, great for the fans. Hopefully brings a bit of morale back. Maybe the support, the noise gets a little bit louder in there. But not for me this weekend. I think Oldham will probably win the game. I'm going to give them a 1-0. I think they're on good form. Right, so we're going to take a quick break from the previous show to present our fan feature in partnership with Sky Bet. This week we thought we'd talk about the League Two side that has impressed us all the most, live and in person. Jordan, I'll come to you.
Yeah, I think. I think when you look at the games that we have played this season, I think I've been saying for the last few weeks or so, I don't really think there's been a particular standout. Really, I think we've probably been the better team in a lot of those games. I sort of hold my judgment on Cambridge in the first game that we covered, because I think they did a real job on us last week, and I think they were probably the closest. Probably them and Walsall, I'd probably say. I think with Cambridge, it was so close just to being the perfect away performance, really stopping us from playing. I think that's the thing. I think if teams, as I've mentioned, I think with the Barnet game, if teams try to play football against us, I back us to out-football them. When teams sort of come to really set up, sort of read our book a little bit, do their homework and see how they attack. And teams try and sit back a little bit, maybe try to hit us on the counter. I think that's probably where we struggle. And I thought Cambridge in particular very, very nearly did that really well. If it wasn't for a little bit of a moment of madness right at the end, which cost them all 3 points. But no, they were pretty solid. They sort of stopped how we play, how we attack. I thought they stopped Charles Vernam in the game pretty well. Sort of know that he likes to cut inside when he gets the ball. Sort of helped that he had another man with him there that Cambridge put there. Of course, their goals from a counter attack from our corner, and Adam Ayres absolutely buried it. I was impressed with Walsall as well. The way that they were bombing up and down with their fullbacks. Conor Barrett in particular, he should be playing in League One. I know I've got no qualms about that, and I make no apologies for saying that. But it was a real end-to-end game with that, and I saw enough in that game to suggest that Walsall will probably be fighting again this year. But I look at the other games, I've pretty much seen most of them. I thought Crawley were poor. Harrogate, I didn't watch the game, but it didn't sound like they was incredible, albeit they were 3-1 up. That was more individual mistakes in that one. MK the other week, yes, we're 3-0 up in half an hour. Yes, I did try and claw it back a little bit, but I didn't think they were that great overall. We caught them a real off day. Accrington, yeah, they got a point from us, but I didn't think they were much special. We probably should have won the game. look how we even outplayed Man United in the cup, really. So I can't even say them. Even I know they're not League Two. I mean, maybe at times they are playing like a league. Well, in fact, no, that's an insult to League Two. Actually, they're just pants as it is. But no, I've been sort of really encouraged. I'm yet to see a team really wow us at the minute. I think that's a real testament to us. Maybe it could be Barnet at the weekend. I don't know, but I think certainly Cambridge and Crawley. I think not Crawley. Cambridge and Walsall have certainly been the two that I've been certainly impressed by the most at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So I was looking at the results and sort of thinking who I've seen this season. I didn't go to the Bromley game. So I was looking to see who I've watched, and Crewe really stood out to me in our win over them. I mean, they didn't score, but throughout the game they were showing so much attacking intent. They were pressing us out of the pitch. They were attempting to sort of control the tempo of the game. And a team that doesn't sit back in League Two, I'm all for it, because pushing up the pitch, keeping possession of the ball, being attacking, and registering. I was looking at the stats from that game. They got 7 shots on our goal, and that shows a team that is really sort of pushing and attacking, and not just waiting to see what happens and try to get you on the counter or hoof a ball into the box and hope that someone's getting ahead on it. So yeah, Crewe really impressed me there. I think it speaks volume of them this season that they're getting these results playing that sort of football.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, to be honest, mine is Bromley. Unsurprisingly, to be honest with you, I was one of the lucky people to get a ticket because we didn't get many. Really solid side, really well drilled, horrible to play against. They're the sort of team that want to drag you into that 1v1 duels, battles, all of that across the pitch. I think they're brilliant at it, probably the best in the league, to be honest. Andy Woodman's a phenomenal fit there. Recruitment's been brilliant. Intrigued to see how long they can remain consistent for and where they can go with it this season, to be fair. But yeah, Bromley without a shadow of a doubt for me. Right, let's get back to the weekend's games. Next up, we've got Colchester United at home to Bristol Rovers. Really disappointing result for Col U last weekend. Can't shy away from it away at Accrington Stanley. Obviously lost that game. Edwards got sent off. They're now down in 19th position after 8 league games. While on the other hand, the Gas have continued to build their momentum. Started picking up some really, really good results. Obviously good 3 points against Barrow last week, which now leaves them level on points with seventh place Bromley. Jordan, can you see Colchester United bouncing back?
It'll certainly be a tough game. That's for sure. I think they're certainly playing Bristol Rovers at the wrong time, because they're really finding their feet now. Obviously, with the start of the season that they've had, unbeaten in 5 in the league now, 4 straight victories, keeping 3 clean sheets, 2 clean sheets. If 2 clean sheets if we're counting the wins, 3 clean sheets altogether if we're also counting the goalless draw against Oldham. So they've really started to find their motto under Darryl Clark, so it'll be by no means an easy game. I think probably Bristol Rovers will probably think the same about Colchester. Yes, they've probably not had the start of the season that they'd have liked, far from it, in fact. I know we touched on their game against Accrington last week, and they were poor. They were really poor in that. With the greatest respect to Accrington, they did deserve the victory, but they're not a side really expected to do a great deal this year. And I don't think many of those players cover themselves in glory in that game. But I think with Colchester maybe being back at home in this one, that sort of might play that to their advantage a little bit. I still think Danny Cowley's still got the knack of getting good results out of good teams. And it could very well be the case for this one. I think Bristol Rovers need to be grounded. I think past 3 results will certainly suggest that they have been. But obviously, it's a bit of a trek for them. I'm sure they'll probably be backed in their numbers again. In front of a Colchester crowd. Really, they need a good result. I don't think they'll win the game, but I have that feeling they won't lose it either. I just feel like I've been sitting on the fence a little bit in this game, but maybe a 1-1 draw does seem fair. I think I know Bristol Rovers are sort of flying and confident, and they'll probably say that I think they can go there and win. but I don't think you can really argue with an away point with that. Maybe Colchester. I just need to see more. I need to see more of Colchester at the minute with the start to the season they've had, because they've had moments where it looks like they can do something, and there's been moments where they've just been off it just completely. 7 points picked up in their first 8 games. They've had some pretty poor results in that time as well. But I just get the feeling that it's one of those games in which I feel that they're very capable of picking up something. I don't know why. It's just the gut instinct that I have.
Yeah, I mean, you've got two teams here really sort of contrasting form, really. You've got Colchester, who are just, their confidence just seems to be lacking. They're on a bad run. And then you've got Bristol, who are coming off the back of 4 consecutive victories and really sort of playing with a bit of a rhythm and confidence now. And they're looking like a bit of a formidable opponent. However, I've just got the sense that Colchester, under the guidance of the Cowleys, could finally ignite their campaign this weekend against the Gas. So I think there's a bit of you're at home, potential to rise to the occasion, fans back in them. I'm thinking they could cause a bit of an could you call it an upset? Yeah, probably an upset, seeing as how the form's going. And yeah, cause an upset. 2-1 I've gone for with my prediction.
Yeah, nice. I like it. I'm going with a 1-1 draw, sitting on the fence, similar to how I have on a few games today, I feel like. But yeah, I think Colchester United, similar to Barrow, difficult place to go and pick up a win. Bristol Rovers, I think a point away from home anywhere is a good result at the moment, especially with where they are in the league. Don't lose away. And Colchester, I think, are going to have enough. I think they're just going to be solid enough, and they're going to be able to not lose the match. So, yeah, 1-1 draw. Next up, we have got Milton Keynes Dons versus Accrington Stanley. Poor run of form for MK over the last 3, with home defeats to Walsall and Grimsby, as well as an away draw against Chesterfield last week. Stanley obviously be buzzing after their brilliant 3 points at home to Colchester United, as we covered earlier on. They scored, and it wasn't Tyler Walton. It's a miracle. Fantastic news for them. Harry, do you think MK will do the expected, or can Stanley spring a surprise?
Yeah, I mean, MK Dons, they're widely tipped to challenge the top of the table this season. And most predictions putting them first or in the automatic places. Summer of recruitment drew plenty of attention for obvious reasons, and expectations are high. But in recent weeks, I've seen injuries sort of mount up, form dip. They're leaving them in 10th place at the moment, and they've not hit their stride. They've shown, obviously, in games glimpses. We've seen goals in games, but yeah, 10th place. They wouldn't have expected to be 10th place. They would have expected to win a lot of those games that they've not got results in. But they've got an Accrington Stanley side that are sitting in 20th. Really difficult for them at the moment. They did manage a good result against a Colchester team last week. We've already spoken about them. But I think, yeah, the main concerns for Accrington has been their lack of firepower. Just, again, 4 goals this season. That's not enough from their games. And, you've got a MK Don side there who clearly can find the back of the net. So given a bit of a quality gap between the two sides, I would say, I think it's fair to say MK Dons probably have a bit too much Accrington this week. And I'm looking for quite a comfortable win for MK Dons. I'll put 2-0 as my prediction.
Yeah, look, I'm going to keep this one somewhat short and snappy. I think if Accrington was to get anything from this game, it'll be a brilliant result for them. Obviously, they got that first win last week, and you'd imagine that spirits are high over there. I know we've mentioned about MK Dons and the injuries that are piling up. But I'm just even looking at their squad that they played Chesterfield last week, that 1-1 draw, and it's still a strong squad as it is, full of quality now. I know Russian Hepburn Murphy got the goal. He's a man he's probably been their best player so far this season. He's really hitting their stride with them. You've still got Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, Callum Patterson has started well for them. I know they've got Aaron Collins coming back now. He'll probably be in the squad again. I know I think he started last night. Yeah, I mean, Dan Crowley's getting back there. I just think they've just got too much quality. Them being at home, they'll certainly fancy their chances. I think this one, MK Dons, I can just see this being a real comfortable afternoon for them. And a much needed one as well after a string of pretty poor results as well. It could be. I think if Accrington settled the way they do, I think there may be a chance that they could maybe upset the apple cart a little bit. But I just think their quality would be too strong. I just personally think that. I think it'll be a comfortable afternoon at Stadium MK. I think Pool One side will come away 3-1 winners. I have a feeling that Accrington will score, but I just think they've got enough firepower to go and win the game quite comfortably, really.
Yeah, I've got a 2-0 home win for MK. I don't want this to come across as disrespecting Aki in any way, because I do honestly think they've got enough in them. Like on their day, they can certainly pick up a point. They can be well organised, and they're not a bad side. I really don't think they're a terrible team. I just think MK, I can't bet against them against most teams at home this season, and it is as simple as that. It's just because of their quality and what they've got in that squad. So yeah, I've got a relatively comfortable 2-0 win. Next up, we've got Newport County at home to Gillingham. Got a feel for Newport fans at the minute. They're sat down in 22nd position, level on points with 23rd place, second bottom Shrewsbury Town. Good point away at Tranmere last week. If you look at it from the outside looking in, it's an away point. Can't ever sniff at that. Give them a bit of sign of hope. Obviously, Gills, on the other hand, we're sat joint top at the moment, unbeaten in 20 league matches. So good 1-0 home win last week. So Jordan, as the neutral, I'm going to pass it across to you first, and then let Harry go afterwards.
Yeah, I think Newport picking up that 1-1 draw with Tranmere last week, albeit they'd have liked to have won the game. But I think above all else, it sort of stops the rot of defeats. Certainly, I mean, 5 straight defeats going into that game. So the fact that they've managed to get a point from it, especially late on as well, is pleasing to a degree. But obviously, they need to start picking up a few more wins after the run that they've been on. I mean, and in terms of challenges that they've got coming up this weekend, I don't think they could have asked for a much tougher one. The fact that they've got to break down a Gareth Ainsworth Gillingham side that's 20 games unbeaten or something like that. So it's not going to be an easy afternoon for Newport at all. And I think you could probably say the same with Gillingham. I think I remember speaking to Kieran a fair bit. I think Newport have, relatively speaking, done all right against Gills in the past. From what I recall. So it's a long old trip for Gills this weekend, isn't it? Heading down to South Wales. I can't see there being a lot in the game. I do think Newport, to a degree, they've been a little bit more solid this season. I know I've said that. Yes, they've lost their last few games, and I'm starting to really question some things. But I think with Gillingham at the minute, they just look really strong. I mean, I've had another hard-fought win last week against Notts County, and it's really hard to not be optimistic going into this game, or just going into any future games at the minute. And why shouldn't you feel like that with the run you've been on? I am under the impression that surely it won't last forever. It won't do. It's not. It's League Two. There will be a time in which Gillingham will lose a game, and they'll probably lose a few games. But can I see it being this weekend? I mean, no, not really. I think it'll be a great result it'll be a great result if Newport was to come away with anything like that. But I am also factoring the long old trip for Gillingham as well in that one. Again, probably I can't see there being a game. I can't see it being a game with tons of quality in it. Probably one goal decides it. And I just think, just on the balance of play and everything and like that. Yes, so this is no disrespect to Newport at all, but I just think it'll be Gillingham that'll walk away with 3 points. It'll be another half-fought win.
Yeah, I'm going to be in agreement with you there. I love a football storyline that has real no implication apart from it sounds amazing, and there's a good one here. Gillingham, 20 games unbeaten, current tied with our best run unbeaten ever. One more game to get the historic landmark of 21 games unbeaten. Who was the last team to beat us? Newport County. Where was it? Rodney Parade. So, these it means nothing, but it's just a nice subplot to have in the background. I'm sure Gareth is a bit frustrated with being asked about it every single interview. And it will be a good one if we can do it just to get that monkey off our back, get 21 games unbeaten, and then push and push and push. I do think it's a good game to have to get that record. Newport, they're just, void of confidence, sitting near the bottom of the table, not really getting results. But they're at home. They've got a Gillingham side coming to them that like to sort of sit back a little bit in away matches, try to get a point if they can. I do think Gillingham will be a bit more attacking than usual in away matches just because it is Newport. And that's no disrespect to Newport. But I do feel Gillingham will be favourites in it. I don't see it being 3 goals. I don't see it being 2 goals. I think it will be the classic Gillingham scoreline of 1-0.
I have us down for a 2-0 away win. Very rarely am I confident away from home like this, but I am this week. Yes, we have a horrible record against Newport, and there's all the stuff going on in the background, as Harry covered, but Ainsworth has thus far broken every negative assumption and expectation that Gills fans have. We don't score enough goals. I think we scored in every single game. We never come back when we're losing. I think we've done that every time we've gone behind under him. Walsall, we hadn't beaten them for a long period of time, and obviously got that win at home against them this season. So I'm going for a 2-0 away win, relatively comfortable. Please don't let me regret that on Sunday. Next up, we've got Newport County at home to Crawley Town. Disappointing performance last week, I thought, for Notts, to be fair. Overall, I think they were a little bit toothless and weren't particularly impressive, but shouldn't take away from their recent form, which has them down in 12th, but they're only 2 points off a playoff spot, so not a bad position for them. Crawley managed to turn around their early form. Came off the back of an away win at Harrogate with another solid 2-0 win against Cheltenham. They also had a good win, Virtue Trophy in the week, against the Villa under-21s, and Ryan Loft scored. My goodness. Harry, I think this has got the makings to be an entertaining game. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I really wasn't. I was really not impressed with Notts County last week in the game against Gillingham. I think they really struggled to create chances, which stats would say is very much not what they've been doing this season. They've been creating chances. They've been scoring goals for fun. So I'm going to guess it's a bit of a blip last week. And I think they'll be back on it again this week against Crawley Town, who I was really impressed with last week. I was watching their game on the TV, and they were passing the ball around. They were moving it quickly. They were attacking. But that was against the Cheltenham side, who we've spoken about, do look very weak. So they need to be able to sort of replicate that sort of performance against a much stronger Notts County team, and they're on the road. So there's things stacking up against them. But I think with that sort of play that Crawley, I mean, Lindsay will get Crawley playing. He will. He needs to get the players on his side, playing his way, and he will get them playing. And maybe last week was a bit of the catalyst for that. And then match up with the fact that Notts County just had... They really did not create many opportunities. I think they had one shot on target, which wasn't really worth the stat of being a shot on target. And we'll see. I think it's going to be tight. I think we might have a single moment of quality from one of the teams that really sort of makes a difference. But I see them both sort of cancelling each other out, actually. And I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting game. I mean, you mentioned Crawley. It's hard to really disagree with anything you've said. They're really starting to find their feet now after a real tough start to the season that they've had. I mean, the draw at Chesterfield probably should have gone on and won that. But I mean, you look at the last. I mean, you can only beat what's in front of you. I mean, a very good away win at Harrogate, and of course beating Cheltenham last week. Two very good results and 2 wins there, which will certainly give them a lot of confidence. I mean, even last week, if you really want to look at the Virtue Motors beating Aston Villa's under-21s 4-2, it's another win for them. And that you can only build on a winning formula. I think for Notts County, it's a really interesting one. Yes, they're at home in this game, and yes, obviously they lost last week to Gillingham, and results wise, if you take that game aside, 3 wins from their last 4 before that, with the other one being a draw at home to Bromley. Has the results been good enough? I'd probably say so. Can performances be better? I think you could probably say yes as well. I think they've got a real opportunity at home now to put the Gillingham game behind them and coming up against this Crawley side. Yes, like I said, they've picked up in recent weeks, but you can still see that they're pretty vulnerable in a few aspects of their game, and if Notts can really capitalise on that, they've got all the making to win in this one. But pick no bones about it. I think you could probably say the same for Crawley as well, with how slow that I think Notts County can be at times. I just think for the fact they're at home, I'm more leaning towards a home win actually. I mean, they've already picked up a couple of decent results at home. I think again it'll probably be another relatively entertaining game. I can see both teams scoring, but I just get the impression that I think Notts will come out 2-1 winners. I just back them on home soil.
See, I quite like this as a bit of a goal fest. I've gone 3-2 home win for Notts. I just think, I mean, I'm also disappointed with them last week, but I think that's what we can do to teams, to be honest with you. And again, I keep mentioning it with the likes of a Walsall and a Bromley. I think we have that in us because of the way that we play. Crawley couldn't be any more opposite to us, or Scott Lindsay certainly couldn't be any more opposite to us. And I think Notts are a really good team. So I like this to be a bit of an open goal fest. 3-2 Notts. Next up, we've got Salford at home to Swindon Town. Two really good sides. Third versus first. Probably pick of the weekend, in my opinion. Salford have been going well. Came off the back of a 3-1 away win at Shrewsbury with Dan Ado showing what he can do. Swindon can't stop scoring and can't stop winning. Amazing 3-1 win. Another game they've scored a lot of goals. Jordan, come to you first.
Yeah, it's probably the pick of the bunch this weekend for the games you have seen. I mean, look, if you watched the podcast the other day, I was sort of full praise for both Salford and Swindon. Salford for the fact I think they're just generally all round well balanced, some great quality in that squad, and Danny Udo in particular, 2 goals at Shrewsbury looks like the addition I think they've been crying out for a little bit of time. And just generally speaking as well, 16 points and found themselves in third. They've started the season really well. And sort of what I expected to do. I sort of half expected them to kick on from last season. And then we come to Swindon, currently top of the league, and 17 goals scored already this season. I mean, they're scoring goals for fun. I do see this game being a real test for them, though. I see this game being a test for both teams, to be honest. More for the fact of Swindon's quality. I mean, defensively, I know they haven't... they haven't conceded the least goals, but I think there's a real grit about Salford with a Carl Robinson side. You know what sort of game you're going to get, which might possibly suit them in the game. But you also look at Swindon and Ian Holloway, and you sort of see the amount of bodies that they push forward and some of the attacking football, the way that they're playing football, they're very capable of hurting teams. So there's a real interesting battle the way that you look at it. It could be a real good one. And I think either team will probably snap your hand off for anything from this game, really. I think probably the fact that it's at Salford helps, but I think also for the fact that Swindon, they've had some good away wins already this season. Look, I think both sides will be coming into this game with confidence either way, and it's one of those. I think it's one of those who sort of blinks first. So I can see both probably again scoring, but I'm just not sure if they'll probably be sort of at their brilliant best for either team, really. I sort of have that doubts. I just think you're looking at from the start 2 good teams there, and therefore I'm once again going to sit on the fence for maybe a 1-1, potentially a 2-2. But it's hard for me to pick a winner. If I was to pick a winner, probably Swindon if they go about it the right way. But I'm going to stick with a draw.
Yeah, I mean, this game looks good. Looks really good on paper. You've got a Swindon Town team that are just very attacking. Forget the defence. We're attacking. We're scoring more goals than you. That's how we're going to win games. Love that. That's brilliant. And then you've got a Salford City who are really sort of, we're resilient in the back, but we also score goals and, we'll push forward. And they've had great attacking moves this season. So I think the question is, can Salford exploit Swindon's defence and the lack of it and the fact that they're pushing forward and keep strong at the back and then get the goals against them? They're at home. They'll have the fans on their side. The fans will definitely be up for this one. I just think both teams are just going to go for it. They're just going to go out and attack. I think there might be quite a few goals in here. I've sat on the fence because honestly, I couldn't decide if I think Salford will just be able to exploit that defence or if Swindon will just be able to score enough goals to counteract it anyway. So I've gone for a 2-2 draw. So yeah, a bit of a fence setter on that one.
I'm going for a 2-1 away win, and it's very similar to what I kind of talked about with MK Dons. I just think there are very few teams that I'm going to back to beat Swindon or to stop Swindon at the moment. I just think they're on an absolute tear, and they're the most scary side in the league. Yeah, 2-1 away win. Final game to cover, Walsall at home to Tranmere Rovers. Walsall been really impressive of late. They've beaten Salford, MK, Shrewsbury and Chesterfield while picking up a really solid 1-1 draw at Fleetwood. Last loss was to Grimsby actually on the 19th of August, some time ago. Personally, I actually think they're probably the most impressive side in the league as far as results, the teams that they've beaten up to now. Tranmere come in, they haven't won in 3, drawing 1 with Newport last week. Harry, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, Walsall seem very strong. Their defence is good. They've just conceded 5 goals this season. You do that, you are going to get points. There's no doubt about it. They're against the Tranmere Rovers team, on the other hand, that have really struggled for consistency this season. They were, I'm not going to say unlucky. They gave the game away with a late draw against Newport County, who they would have wanted to have got a result against. So it will be another tight one. I think Walsall, again, they're so defensively strong, and in this division, if you don't concede goals, you're doing well. So I've put it down to Walsall being 1-0 winners in this one. But if Tranmere could, they could do something. But I just see Walsall being, as you say, really strong at the moment. They're beating good sides, and they've done it with real defensive solidity. So yeah, 1-0 have gone.
Yeah, look, I don't really have too much to add to that. Look, Walsall, I know I was full of praise with them earlier when we were doing the feature. One of the stronger teams I think we've played this season. I've got a real identity to them, and they're doing well at the minute, keeping clean sheets, winning games, and Daniel Carn who's scoring goals for them, which is a player that I'm really liking the look of at the minute. Tranmere really yet to get going, really. There's potential, maybe if things don't pick up a little bit, it could be one of those seasons again, which probably not be as bad as last year, but I think there's only so much you can rely on quality from Amari Patrick, really, before this whole team really. It's going to be a really tough game for Tranmere, going away to Walsall as well, and I can only really see a home win at the minute. That's just more I'm thinking of. I think they'll score more than one goal. So I'm going to go for, I think Walsall will win this one 2-0. Again, I can see them keeping a clean sheet again, which is something that I know that they've been very good at doing at the minute. It could be it's going to be a tough afternoon for Tranmere anyway, but just on the face of it, I don't really see much of a suggestion that it'll be anything other than that.
Yeah, also had 2-0 home win for Walsall. As I've covered, really impressive. I don't see Tranmere having enough to go to the Bescot and pick anything up. I'll be honest with you. I certainly don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. So yeah, I think Walsall will carry on, and it will be another good 3 points for them. Right, well that brings us up to the end of the review show. Sorry, the preview show. We'd love to see your predictions, and we'd love to hear your opinions on the matches of the weekend. So please make sure you comment. Again, your support is vital to the show. So please like and subscribe and download the podcast from wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you all very much for listening, and we'll be back for the review show probably on Monday.